Today, we've got a really exciting matchup between two heavy hitters from Wild Turkey Distillery. It's Russell's Reserve Single Barrel versus Wild Turkey Rare Breed. So let's get to it. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch, and thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So today we're doing a matchup that I've been looking forward to for quite some time now, and that's putting Russell's Reserve Single Barrel versus Wild Turkey Rare Breed. To me, in my eyes, these are both really quality, heavy-hitting products from Wild Turkey that sort of sit on that same plateau. If you're standing there in the aisle deciding which one to get, it's nice to know how they compare, and for me, I'm just genuinely interested in seeing which one I like best today. So starting with the Russell's Reserve, we are looking at a 110 proof whiskey. That is not quite barrel proof, but it's pretty close. That's because everything at Wild Turkey is put into the barrel at a pretty low proof, around 107 to 115. So this is pretty darn close to barrel proof. It's a non-chill filtered product, and it's a single barrel, obviously by the name. So flavors might vary a little bit bottle to bottle, but overall, from what I've heard, each bottle is pretty stellar. Compare that to Wild Turkey Rare Breed. We've got an actual barrel proof product here. It doesn't say if it's non-chill filtered, so I wouldn't assume that it is, but it's 116.8 proof. Age-wise, we're looking at Russell's Reserve, which doesn't have an age statement, but is thought to be somewhere between 8 to 10 years old, often in that 8 to 9 year range for these single barrels, so good age on that. Rare Breed, I believe the Wild Turkey website says that it's a blend of 6, 8, and 12 year bourbons. So there is some older stuff in here, and there's some younger 6-ish age stuff there. In terms of mash bill, it's a good comparison because everything out of Wild Turkey comes from the same mash bill, which is 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. Price-wise, we are looking at relatively similar numbers here. Russell's Reserve Single Barrel is right around $60 to $65, and Rare Breed you're going to find somewhere around $45 to $50 in most places. So Russell's Reserve slightly more expensive. Kind of the good question is it worth the extra $10 or so? Is it really the better whiskey? So let's get into this blind tasting of two heavy hitters from Wild Turkey and see which one comes out on top. Before we do that, just want to say that if you are liking the video, smash that like button, and especially if you're liking all the content coming out of the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me know what specific kind of content to keep creating for you guys. So let's dive in here. We'll start with the one on my left, should be your right. There is a little mark on the bottom of the one that is the Wild Turkey Rare Breed. I don't know which one it is. I mixed these up, let them sit for about 15 minutes, and have genuinely no idea which one it is. So let's get into it. First one here on the nose. Okay, so there's good sweetness here. Good vanilla and cherry. Two common notes I get on a lot of Wild Turkey things. There's some oak behind that. I'm not getting much of like a Wild Turkey funk or anything, which is something that I do often get on the Rare Breed, but not so much on the Russell's Reserve. So obviously my intention is not to just sort of guess which one is which and have a bias there, but you do pick up on little things that make you think it might be one bottle or the other. All right, let's go compare that to Glass B here on the nose. Okay, so that's a little darker. I'm getting like more caramel, more oak maybe. It just has a darker sense to it. Not like any nuttiness or funkiness too much on this one either, but we'll give it some time to open up and see what comes out. But overall, pleasant. I would say this one's coming off, Glass A is coming off a little bit sweeter, a little bit more cherry and vanilla, and Glass B is coming off a little bit more like caramel and oak, a little touch of vanilla too. So both very nice, pleasant noses, but subtle differences there. Okay, let's get into the palate on Glass A here. Cheers, everybody. All right. Very pleasant whiskey. Good heat going down the chest. On that, I'm getting a heck of a lot of caramel and brown sugar. The finish as it keeps going is like all caramel and maybe even a little bit of like a milk chocolate. And there is, on that one, Glass A slight nuttiness that I picked up there. And I got a waft of it as I went in to take a sip. So and a little bit of that Wild Turkey funk and potential nuttiness is showing up there now. Let's go over to Glass B and do a quick sip there and see what we get here. Cheers again. Okay, so that one, it's interesting because I feel like the noses betrayed me a little bit. That one had more vanilla and cherry sweetness and a whole heck of a lot of like black pepper and baking spices like cinnamon, maybe even like a little bit of nutmeg or something like that. Good brown sugar on that one too, but not quite as caramel brown sugar bomby as Glass A. So both really pleasant sipping experiences. So far, I would say that I'm maybe leaning a little bit toward Glass A. I mean, that caramel and vanilla and oak and even a little bit of chocolate that came through, slight nuttiness. It's just such a really good, powerful whiskey. Glass B is close on its heels though, and it might change as things develop here. So let's go back to the nose real quick. Just do a quick comparison now that things have opened up and I've got some on my palate. Okay, so I feel like I am picking up a little bit more of that nutty potential characteristic here. Good vanilla, good oak. Let's go over to Glass B. Okay, so that one has some good brown sugar coming off of it now. Lots of cherry. And sort of like a sweet oak, a sweeter oak kind of nose to it. Both are really good. I mean, they're similar. You can tell that they're sort of like brothers. They're not identical twins, but they are brothers and they're very related in their caramel, vanilla, brown sugar, cherry representations here. Okay, so let's go back in reverse order. Let's start with Glass B and then move to Glass A and do the comparison that way. Cheers, everybody. Okay. Yeah. So that one, basically brown sugar and cinnamon all day long on that sip. As it developed, I got a little bit more of that like richer caramel come through on the finish with a heck of a lot of like vanilla and cherry. So flavorful, powerful. The mid palate really explodes with that like cinnamon, black pepper spice. That's making me think it's the Russell's Reserve, but honestly, they're similar enough that I really could be wrong about which way I'm leaning. And either one could be rare breed. So I'm sort of at a loss for what they are, but that one, very, very solid. Let's go back to Glass A now. Take a sip of that. Cheers. Okay, so coming back this way, honestly, this one jumps out of the glass a little bit less now, has a little bit less punch. I'm also more acclimated. I thought I got a little bit more note of that like potential nuttiness on this one, and as it lingers on the palate, I think that is potentially there. But a very similar experience with powerful brown sugar, caramel, and some good cherry. So I honestly am not sure which one is which. I think they're both really solid whiskeys. I'm going to spend a little bit more time with both of these. We'll cut back to when I've sort of figured out my ranking here. All right, so that took quite a bit, to be honest. These two are so clearly related that it's hard to pick apart the differences here, and they're both really, really good and really powerful. So it's hard to discern exactly which one has the better overall experience, but I sort of want to break it down like this. I think Glass B for me, and by this point I have absolutely no idea which is which, just to let you know. Glass B, I think, is winning on the nose. It's just got a slightly deeper and richer nose to it for me. Something that stands out a little bit more in the glass. Not that Glass A has a bad nose, it's certainly quite sweet and pleasant too. Glass B is just sort of taking it by, excuse the pun, it's taking it by a nose. On the palate, I'm actually going to give Glass A the win. I think Glass A, that sweetness really comes through. And Glass B, there is this intense punch in the middle that over time became a little bit bitter for me. And Glass A stayed a little bit sweeter, had a little more cinnamon, caramel goodness to it and brown sugar goodness to it overall. And then on finish, I would give it to Glass B. I think Glass B comes back strong with the finish and has a lot of good caramel and vanilla and cherry to it that really stands out. Not that Glass A, again, has a bad finish. These are so good and so similar that it's, again, really hard to pick it apart. So I am officially giving the win to Glass B today for nose and finish being better. But Glass A has a great palate, and it's just basically like splitting hairs between these two, which is why I wanted to do the comparison, because I thought they were both really good and sort of stood as two findable, widely available, reasonably priced, great, high proof whiskeys. So let's get to the moment of truth and see which is which. I honestly have no idea which they are, and I'm not even going to guess because then I'll just look dumb. Okay, Glass B here is Rare Breed. Okay, so it was a little bit of a roller coaster there. Both have such good cinnamon and brown sugar and cherry and vanilla and caramel, and the notes are very similar. I do think this Glass B, which is Rare Breed, had an extra punch in the middle that turned a little bit bitter for me. So the Russell's won on the palate. It's got a really nice, sweet, but powerful palate. But Rare Breed won on the nose and on the finish. It's just got a more powerful nose and a finish that really lingers for quite a long time. And comes back with this really strong caramel note to it that I really enjoyed. So, Rare Breed is the winner today by a hair. Russell's Reserve Single Barrel is an exceptional pour as well. That palate is really something. So basically we're all winners here today, and Russell's Reserve and Rare Breed, you both deserve a little pat on the back because you did great work today, and I enjoyed sipping on both of you. Anyway, I think that's going to about wrap up everything I have to say here about both of these really good offerings from Wild Turkey. Let me know if you've had either of these, if you've ever put them head to head. What were your results? Which one do you gravitate towards? Which one do you think is more worth the, 50 or 60 bucks? Just want to start a conversation around Wild Turkey Distillery and some of their best products. So until I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.